Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Hearts of Women. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I just want to do a little housekeeping and to tell you a little bit about our discussion today. I'm excited to have this discussion where we're going to come together, we're going to ask questions, and they're going to give us their answers, and then we're going to may say, that may be what we say, because I'm sure they're going to have some questions as well in response to our answers. But I wanted to come on and say, wanted to say this first. We are coming and we have our own perspectives, and we're just here to share with you guys some of those perspectives. Everyone may not agree, and that's okay if we don't agree, but we are coming together to have a honest and truthful conversation, and it's not going to be heavy. We want to enjoy ourselves. We want to have fun. We want to come together to have a healthy, productive conversation, and there may be some laughter, and you may see some scrunchy faces as well. But we're excited to be here. Hope you guys are going to enjoy this time that we come together and we share with you some of our perspectives and thoughts about the questions that we're going to be posed today. Some of the questions have come from some of the people who I gave an opportunity to ask in the post if they had any questions, and some people did ask questions, and some of those questions will be addressed as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to take our time and enjoy the show. And I want to make sure that I address everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you being here. And I want to make sure that each and every person on the panel, I would like for them to introduce themselves. So we are the Hearts of Women, and then the Hearts of Men have joined us for this conversation. So I don't want them to be acting up, okay? But I know they may. So I want to take the time for each person to please introduce yourself.
Ladies first, men first.
I'll start. My name is Adrienne Walthour. She is becoming. I'm a sister and an aunt and a woman who truly loves God. So I am ready for this conversation. I'm ready to hear the different perspectives and to get a little nugget or two.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Earls, the Love Doctor, and I am looking forward to the conversation as well, especially the first question. So I'm just ready to dig into the comments and the questions, really.
I am the Uncle Junior, and I go by the consistency coach, or the Uncle Junior. Definitely looking forward to the conversation. I want to thank um, you guys for inviting us on here. I really appreciate it. I think it's a good way to spend a Saturday morning. I remember waking up a long time ago watching cartoons and different things like that, and usually I'm just piddling around the house. So now I'm actually doing something productive. I'm being able to learn and maybe even share some some nuggets. I'm trying to interested to see how this is going to go. So again, I'm the Uncle Junior, the consistency coach, and that's my 2 cents.
I am Dwayne Dwyer, the mindset coach. I am excited for this conversation, like Uncle Junior, and I look forward to how this conversation is going to unfold. Like Uncle Junior, I'm looking forward to sharing nuggets, but I'm sharing boulders today. It's coming, so get ready. No, I'm joking.
My name is Roland Walker, poor man's Dr. Phil, or Mr. Shift Happens. Now, I can't promise you that we ain't gonna go left, because that's just how we roll over here. But I'm sure that we're going to add value to your podcast this morning, because we understand that you're on a mission not just to send out buffoonery, but to send out profitable information so that we can all grow. Muted.
I was trying to unmute my mic. You know what? I'm sitting here and I'm so used to being in an environment where Coach is is directing the podcast. So I know this is all us today. So I'm so thankful for everyone being here. So our first question, we're gonna pose our first question now, and so this question is a question that one of the questions that I came up with, and that I took a few people asked about this particular question. And I as well want to make sure how we can, communicate. How can women communicate their needs better in a relationship? Because you hear, especially in social media environments, men don't think like this or women don't think like that. So we want to come and ask our question directly to men, to help us understand this question. So either one of you guys can answer it.
I'll go. You pretty much you pretty much just stated when you were just talking a great away, right? And that is, you said it was going to be direct. Be clear and direct with your communication. When you speak in the gray area, there's room for subjectivity, there's room for misunderstanding. But when you say, hey, pick up your drawers and put them in the basket, right? That's different than if I don't know. I don't deal with this. So I'm trying to think of a way in comparison to that. And that might be something like, it'd be nice if the drawers wasn't on the floor, right? Don't beat around the bush. Just be direct. Say, pick up your drawers, put them in the basket. And I know I'm being a little lighthearted, but it's like that with a lot of different things. When women speak in the gray area, we don't necessarily understand it. Like, we're men. Like, the man, especially if you chose right or if he chose right, the man that you are with, if he's a leader, he don't want you to coddle him and with words and beat around the bush about stuff. If he's a leader and he's built himself up, he used to working with certain other people, and in that space they're a lot more direct, and because they need to get stuff done. So when you speak in a gray area, that is causes confusion. We don't necessarily understand necessarily what you are trying to say. So just be direct and clear in your communication, and that is one way that women can better communicate their needs in a relationship.
Well, I'm going to take a slightly different approach. I say, first and foremost, enroll yourself in somebody's counseling and sit on the couch and talk about those needs. Because ideally, when it comes down to it, there should never be a need that each partner has for each other. Once you put that on another person, that's something that they have to be subject to moving forward. So when it comes down to it, you need to understand this thing that you're calling a need for yourself. Why do I feel as though it's your responsibility to fulfill my need? What was you doing to fulfill it before you got into this relationship? So that's the first thing I'll start off with. What is your perspective of need as it pertains to a relationship? Why is somebody else responsible for that need per se? And then at the end of the day, what happens if that person doesn't give you what you need? Does the ship fall off does everything fall off the rails? That's the thing you need to understand. I go back, I've said it so many times, and I'm gonna say it again. The relationship is the most important person in the relationship, not you, not your needs. So, what a lot of people probably need to do when it comes down to their needs is they need to sit down, meditate, and pray and ask God, why do I have a need that I feel that this other person is responsible for? Because there's no space in the relationship that requires another person to fulfill your needs, right? This is a, this is another way of manipulating another person into doing what you want them to do. Only thing you're doing is putting the word need in front of it. I need, now, don't get me wrong. I'm going back to Garfield's point. If my drawers on the floor, that's different. That's something totally different. Like, you need to pick your drawers up. You're a grown man. Why are you leaving your drawers in the middle of the floor? Stepping out your clothes and leaving it there. That's totally different. There is a thing called personal responsibility, and everybody must be responsible in the space that we call relationship. That's picking up your drawers. That's picking up your bottom lip. That's regulating these things I have called emotions and not pinning them on you and making it a need.
Okay, so
I
now
got
I jump in. Okay, go ahead, Garfield.
I need some clarification with this when it comes to the needs, right? In a marriage, right? There's probably an expectation since we're talking men and women, there may be an expectation for men to need to have relations or women to need affection, right? So those things in the marriage we can only get from the other person. So if a woman is coming, if my wife comes to me and she's saying, "Hey, I need you to be more affectionate." You know what I mean? I miss the times when you were touching on me. When I walk past, you smack my butt. You know what I mean? You send me notes, you know, and heart emojis, different things. You're not doing these things anymore. I need you to up your game and do these things, you know, because I'm feeling like, you know, I'm feeling left out. You know, I don't feel as close to you anymore. So that is something I've often heard over and over and over, you know, even before YouTube. I've heard women say they need more affection in a relationship. So when you say that there's no need, that's you know, that's a different perspective than what I've heard before. So I'm just looking for a little bit of clarification.
See, everything I heard didn't quantify need. Everything I heard is called a want. There was nothing in every example, and I'm not just singling out your example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything I heard was a want. I want you to do that. I want you to do this. It will make me feel good if you do more of this. It does not quantify a need, and that's the thing that I'm talking about. I think a lot of times what we tend to do is we conflate wants and needs. Needs means a sense of urgency. So now when I put the term need on it, that's what you see it as. Therefore, now it makes you want to do it because I called it a need. Just because, and again, I go back to prior to what were you doing before we got together? Who was providing all of that then? You see what I'm saying? Like when you ask those questions, it really come down and it really makes people consider what they're saying. The next thing I would say, why? Why do you quote unquote need me to do it? Because when you ask those particular questions, now you have to give a response. Well, I need you to be more affectionate. Why? Is it that you're lacking in affection? Is it because affection to you equates to something else? Like, explain that to me and help me to better understand that. And so now you open up the door of conversation to go back and forth. Maybe it's not so much as something that you need, or maybe it could peel back the onion and realize that you didn't get affection when you were growing up. So now you're pining for affection at this particular age that you're at. And since they didn't give it to you, now you're in the space of relationship. And now what you're doing is you're putting it on me to atone for what they did not do. So let's get down to the why of the matter, right? Once we start doing those things, then we'll realize that what we're calling a need aren't needs, it's a want. And at the end of the day, you know, my granddaddy used to say a long time ago, you can do something in one hand and do something in the other and see which one fill up first, right? There's a lot of wants that we want, but we just don't get. And I think when we stop putting that on people, we'll find that relationships actually work out a whole lot better. And there's a lot less stress and tension within it.
Lisa, I didn't know whether you want to say something.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Man, I'm loving it. And I think we may have just glossed over the part where Coach said you may need, in my words, some couch time. Because whenever you're in that space where another person has to fulfill you, you aren't fulfilled in self, you aren't complete, then it's an insecurity and an insufficiency in self, and you're expecting someone else to fill that void. And you may need to talk to somebody and see and unpack that thing. But outside of what these brothers just said, keep it short. When women communicate, sometimes you talk all the way around the corner. And I was always told, don't go around the corner just to get next door. Just go next door. And sometimes women will talk around what they say and then throw it in there and expect someone to say, oh, that's what they meant. No, be straight up, say what you want, say what you need, because men hear certain key things. They want to know, okay, we direct straight to the point. What you talking about? Don't tell me your mama said or this said. If you want me to pick your underwear up off the floor, if you want me to pick my underwear up off the floor, be straight up. Dude, pick your drawers up. Don't sit up there and say, can you please help me clean up the house? Because I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to wipe the table off before I sit at it or something like that. And then you're thinking that you told me what you wanted. No, you talked around what you wanted. Also, know your partner. If you know your partner, this is a sore point or a sour point with them, and you're about to bring it up, don't do the setup thing. I hate setup conversations. Don't bring up something to talk about something else. If it's something I know it's about to be something that I don't want to hear, don't talk around it, because go straight, just pull the band-aid off so we can talk about it. And express yourself early. Don't wait till things build up. A lot of times you women will say, I can do it by myself. And you walk around huffing and puffing. We don't know what's going on. We're thinking it may be that time of the month. That's how men think. I don't know what she's going through, but she's frustrated at me, but yet she won't say anything with me until it blows up. And then I'm just, you should have left you home with your mama and all this other stuff. And with that need thing, change the verbiage, because I don't need this. This is something that I desire for us to experience together. And you're my wife, you're my spouse, whatever, husband, whatever. Now, I'm not putting it on you, but it's just something that I desire so that we can move forward in a relationship, so that I'm not holding any animosity towards you and you're not holding any towards me when I gravitate towards what I want.
Need versus desire. That made a lot of things a lot more clear. Need versus desire. Appreciate that, Ro.
So now, ladies, we've heard what the men said. Do you have any rebuttal or any response to what they said? Because I wanted to respond to Uncle Junior's question as well. But do you have anything as far as this question is concerned from what you heard in their response?
I agree with everything that they've stated, especially Coach, the coach in the middle, Dwayne Dwyer. As long as we continue to look at what our needs are, and not really looking at the fact that they're wants, then we'll keep getting what we're getting, and in essence, making the other person a slave. I don't get into a relationship to be someone's slave. I get into a relationship for the partnership. And so if we're not going to be partners and we know and can discern what the other one may not necessarily need, but discern what would fit or suggest, I can make a suggestion in that situation, then why are we even together in the first place? I think we know exactly what the other person wants, needs, and or desires by paying attention sometimes, and oftentimes we don't pay attention.
I just, for the people in the back like me, would you define your needs versus want again? Because we all know that that's a common phrase, right? What we need, what we desire, what men need, all those things. So just define that one more time for us, either Coach or even Roland. Just define the difference between the need and the want.
What I get from the Father and what I get from man. I think the Bible is crystal clear. It says that God will provide all of your needs according to his riches and glory. And if I believe that to be true, then there's not one need that I have that I need from you. That means that everything is a want that comes from you. It is a level of appreciation that I receive. Hold on. It's a level of appreciation that I receive from you. That's the key. I go a step further. I wouldn't even say desire. I think desire is a stretch, because there's no way that anyone outside of you can quantify what you call a desire. So even with that, it has to remain in the space of want, right? When we start saying it is a longing for a thing, well, when it becomes a longing for a thing, what is it that you really want? That's really what desire is. It is a deep longing, a yearning for a thing. So it has to be a want. It is something that you would like, right? That's a want, something I would like. I want you to do this. I would like it if you were to do that. Great. Thanks for sharing that with me. I would take it into consideration.
Yeah, and see, Coach, he right on point, because when you can say, if somebody say, I need you to be in the house before 10 o'clock, I can say I'm a grown butt man. So now what you did, you put the responsibility on me to do what you want me to do. So now I'm at your beck and call instead of me being responsible for me. See, I'm responsible for me. You're responsible for you. And out of respect, there's some things that we will talk about that we can do and to appease or to satisfy the other person because we're in relationship. But when we talk about needs, we're not talking about sustenance. We're not talking about food. We're not talking about housing. We're talking like you don't need a 5-bedroom house. You may want a 5-bedroom house. It may make you comfortable. And when we talk about our needs become what makes us comfortable in the relationship in our mind. So instead of saying, oh man, I would like for this to happen, we push it off and, well, I need, like a man don't need, I'm not going to be graphic or anything. I don't need a woman to satisfy me. I can do that myself. But because we're in a relationship, I push it off on her and guilt trip her. And that's the same way we do back and forth. We guilt trip one another to satisfy us. And we call it a need instead of what we want.
Okay, now I want to respond to a few of the comments, and I'm only going to respond this way. I'm going to respond by 1 Corinthians 7, starting at verse 2. Okay, that's how I'm going to respond, and this is in response to Uncle Junior's question. Okay, and just so that we know that when a lot of people do think this, and I'm so glad that Coach did address the question the way that he did, because when a person places their needs or wants onto you, but when you're in relationship, the word of God says, nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Let the husband render unto his wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto her husband. The wife have not power over her own body, but the husband. And likewise also the husband have not power over his own body, but the wife. So defraud not one the other, except to be with it be for consent for a time. That ye may give yourselves to fasting and praying, and then come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your inconsistency. And so when we're together as one in relationship, and like I think Levon said about us understanding and knowing each other, there shouldn't come a time where you're saying to each other when we know each other, especially when we're in relationship, that I need you to touch me, as Uncle Junior was saying, or do this or do the things that you did before. Now, we do have to understand that in the beginning, the honeymoon phase only lasts for a little while, but we have to be consistent in courting each other, right? And then life happens and things change, but we have to sit down and have conversations and talk about those things. So that's why I wanted to read that text, because I think it was answering Uncle Junior's question. If not, please help me. No. You still?
I'm good.
Oh, you good? All right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
But did that make sense?
Yeah, I understand your perspective.
Okay, you understand my perspective.
And I think, and Uncle, you can clear it up. I think what he was asking was in relation to a lot of things that he see and hear on social media. Not that it's something that they struggle with.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So all hearts and minds clear. We can go to the next question. And I did not want to make it seem like it was something that, I was just responding to the question. So I just want to be clear. I'm not saying this is the issues Uncle Junior or it has in his household. But that's what I thought of when you don't know when you ask that question, because there may be somebody who is thinking that, and they want to have answered. A question. Have that question answered. So that was that. And yes.
No, I'm waiting you to finish so I can jump on this question.
Okay.
Because my answer fitting to be clear, concise, and to the point.
Okay.
What does a successful relationship look like?
Okay.
Very simple. The relationship you see between the father and the son, the relationship that is articulated between the son and the church.
That's a
That's
good
what it looks like. Every relationship we've seen don't look like that. There's some things that may show hints of it. So when we pattern our lifestyle off of what we've seen, only thing we're doing is following down the path of someone else's understanding of what that looks like. There's only one perfect relationship ever known to man. And what we must do is pattern our relationships after that as best we can.
I understand coach's perspective. I'm gonna go a little different way. I understand a perfect relationship, and I think he really, hit the nail on the head with that. I think a successful one can be. I'm adding to. I'm not taking away anything. A successful relationship can be when both people in the relationship are at peace, there's harmony, there's understanding, and there can be some bad that goes on in there too. But overall, it's like this. It's like when everything is working, or it works best and the relationship is put forward. I think that's what success can look like. I think it's easier sometimes to give examples than for me sometimes than trying to explain it. So I would say this is what a successful relationship is, right? So for the last 2.5, 3.5 years, when it comes to podcasting and doing YouTube, myself, Coach, and Roland have been part of a couple of different types of shows. We've been part of this. We've been part of Elevated Dialogue, Empower and Perspective Podcast, Hearts of Men, all of these different things for the last 2.5, 3 years. So we are still rocking with each other. We check on each other sometimes. We have a personal relationship. What we have is not a perfect relationship, but it is successful. We can have conversations on the side about business. We can have conversations about personal things. And I think that is what this is an example of what a successful relationship can look like. Not perfect. You know what I mean? I don't always get to talk to Roland like I want to. Sometimes I be like, I need to call Roland to check on Roland. Want to see how he doing. Just want to check in with him, and I don't. There are some times where I'm just like, man, I want to check in on Coach, and I don't. So it's not perfect. There are some times, where I think about Gaddy and like, how come I haven't really reached out to him? You know what I'm saying? So these relationships are not perfect, but they are a success because we're still meeting together on Friday nights. We're still meeting together on Tuesdays. You guys are meeting together on Sundays. We're here on Saturdays. So it is still successful. And I think since everything is working, that's the same thing in a personal relationship or relationship with a man and woman or a marriage or a friendship. So that's kind of an example in my opinion.
Just to try to add to what these brothers just said, I think all relationships work on the same plane. It's not like I got to do anything different with a spouse or my friends. I have like when we meet adversity, we have to communicate. If it's a good relationship, if it's a successful relationship, we need to communicate and seek the Father, seek help to better us. Because if I'm thinking it and you're thinking it, we're thinking two different things, and we're just going off of the dome of what we think about how the relationship should go. We need to go and seek the one who made relationships possible. That way, we'll know what success is when we render not our wills, but his will in the relationship. And that's with a friend, that's with a business partner, that's with a spouse or whomever.
And that was the point I was getting at. I think when it comes down to relationships in this day and age, we view something outside of what, like Garfield said, and I agree with what he said, what the perfect relationship. We view something outside of that as a model. So we'll see the Kardashians of the world, we'll see the Kanye Wests of the world, and we want that. And we'll focus our attention on that And then that equates to the needs that we were just talking about prior to. So that's why I said what I said and just dropped the mic right there. Because if we're not focused on that relationship, how it equates to that, like Roland just said, the one who created relationship, if we do not understand what the parameters of that relationship require, then I will never take responsibility for what my part in that relationship looks like. And if you fail to meet what my image of relationship looks like in my head, it's now your fault. And then when it does not work, every story that I have with everybody else following after that, I will set the conditions to where you were the bad guy, I was the victim, and that's how it ended up working. So if we don't necessarily focus on the model of relationship that was given to us, then we do not do everything that Garfield just talked about. We do not consider somebody else when we have not talked to them in a while. We do not put forth the energy and effort to make sure that I am responsible for my own behavior in the space of this relationship, and I will pawn it off on you and make you responsible for it.
Ladies.
I was trying to find the words, but um, I understand what Coach is saying as far as what the perfect relationship would be. But Uncle Junior kind of said something that made sense to me. Every personality is different, but when you decide to come together, it is making room for each other and keeping him first. If I could sum it by saying that. Because every personality quirk is different for each person. Um, does that kind of sound like, not that you weren't clear as to what you're saying, that's not what I'm saying, but I'm just reiterating that sometimes the relationship is not destined to be perfect, right? But it can still be successful, making room for other people's personality quirks, if you will.
And sometimes we also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say you're right. And I think sometimes we just got to realize that some relationships are not destined to be. I think sometimes we force a thing to be, because again, going back to what we have in our head, I love it. Personalities, right? Like, let me say it like this, because y'all know how I get, and I apologize, Garfield. My personality means absolutely nothing to the job that I'm working. So if my personality means nothing in the space of the job that I am working in, then why do I believe? Because you got to realize, because of the reason us coming, the people who work in the same location, the reason we came together is because of the job. That's how we connected with one another. Well, the depth and breadth of the relationship that we have in the space of the job that we have is based upon our submitting what we want unto the notion of the vision of the organization. But we change the parameters of relationship as though it's totally different. No, there's a vision in relationship, there's responsibility in relationship. But what we'll say, and I'm just using the word personality because you use it, right? But we'll say, well, my personality is different. It doesn't fit that. Okay, well, great. That's true to a certain degree, but it's more so true if I believe it to be true. So if I believe it to be true, then that means that I can only connect with people based upon who are willing to accept my personality. That's not true. I can connect with people with all various types of personalities. So personality doesn't drive relationship. Intentionality drives relationship. When we become intentional about relationship, recognizing what I'm supposed to do, recognizing the things that I'm responsible for in the space of relationship, and owning just that part, not taking my personality and put in between me and you, right? Because I'm trying to make you, and I'm not saying you said this, but I'm trying to make you responsible for accepting my personality. Let me be great, right? No, my personality is it is my personal reality. That's what my personality is. My personal reality is not yours, nor do I put it off on you. It is mine's and mine's alone. Therefore, at the end of the day, if you were like, case in point, I love the fact that Garfield is training for a marathon. I ain't gonna do it. Not me. Not gonna do that. Right? Do I hold that against him? Not at all. Does he hold it against me? Not at all. That's why the relationship works, because we own our own personality and it's not a barrier between the two of us.
One of the things that I
Taking
heard,
notes.
yeah, one of the things that I heard her coach, I don't know if it's coach or which coach, the mindset coach or consistency coach say was that we model our relationships off of what we see online. He mentioned the Kardashians. That was coach. He mentioned the Kardashians. And so we model our relationship off of but we don't see the whole entirety of the relationship, only what they want to show us. And then after the fact, we see the evidence of the relationship. So we have to be careful of trying to model our wants or needs after something we saw online, because it's unrealistic, first of all. So when we understand the true relationship that we should have with the Creator, the Most High, then we can have better relationships with each other. So I think that's one of the things that I know, that when we see on social media, I see a lot of women when people are posting things about your relationship. I can't wait, there's, the comments, some of the phrases that they use, um, what's the term?
Couple goals.
Yeah, couple goals, relationship goals, right?
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
So you see that, and you use that as your matrix of what you want a relationship to be like. But you don't understand. Do you want to walk the journey that they went through to get to where they are, or do you want to compromise yourself if they had to compromise themselves to get to where they are? So we have to be mindful of who we're trying to model and be and follow as being in relationship with. So that's one of the things that I heard Coach said that I wanted to just add some more context to. Anyone else, ladies or gentlemen? I'm sorry. Roland didn't. Okay, I'm sorry.
I think to address Adrian's question, sometimes we try to put people in roles that they aren't ready for, but we want them to be there. He fits the bill. She looks like this. I want her to be my girlfriend. And what we do is we miss opportunities to allow those people to add true value to us, because maybe they weren't meant to be your woman or your man. They were meant to be your business partner. They were meant to be your mentor or mentee. They were meant for another purpose, but we try to force them into roles that they were never meant to be in. And when it comes to personality, I think that we can watch TV and have couples goals, or other people may see me and my, oh, I want to see me and my lady, my wife, oh, I want to be like them. They don't know we just was having heated fellowship in the car, but we know when we get out the car, we got to play this role. We'll talk about that when we get home, but we just had heated fellowship in the car, but we're not going to expose that to everyone else. That's just like watching TV. We can't just watch TV and say, I want to be like the Huxtables. I want to be like the Obamas. I want to be, no, you got to be yourself, because you're learning you as you go through this thing called life. So you learn and grow. And in a relationship, you learn and grow. That's why some people outside the relationship, I wouldn't take that. You ain't in a relationship. You don't have to take it. So that's my take on that.
I like the heated fellowship. Never heard that. I like that.
Any response, Miss Levon? Comments?
I would venture to say a successful relationship is kind of what Dr. Field just stated. I mean, what does the relationship with the Most High and yourself look like? Is that relationship successful? Are you responsible in your other relationships? Because as Coach said, relationships is responsibility. And if you can't answer yes to any of those questions, then I think you need to really get with yourself and the Most High and figure that thing out. So successful relationships, I think, is based upon how our relationship with the Most High, like everyone else has said, is. And if we carry those things out with other people, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Love your brother as you love yourself. And when we get to that space, I think we can see success. But in the meantime, at least be responsible.
Okay. And that comment came from one of the chats, and I hope we answer that question to that's the satisfaction. I think we did a good job, I hope. But so we're going to go on to the next question. Okay. So men, I want the men to answer this question. I want the men to answer this question, not women. This is posed for the men.
Dang it, I wanted to answer this question.
Okay, you can answer it too, but I want them to answer it first.
Why you keep pointing at me, man?
Hey, it's your turn to go first, man. Stop hiding in the back.
I let y'all get out there then. I'm like, oh yeah, I can pull off that. Misconceptions about men. All men are dogs. I think anything society pushes off and tells you about a man, it has to be a misconception, because what you do is you put everybody in the same bucket and make them the same. All men are dogs. All men cheat. All men. Maybe it's all the men you choose to allow in your space, and you've allowed them the fruits of whatever, and now you see that he got what he wanted up front. So now, what good are you? What use are you to him when you allowed him to use you up front? Misconceptions about men. I think when it comes to Black men, there are many misconceptions, because we think that what we see on TV and what's portrayed to us as being, the same way the media pushes laziness, the same way the media pushes being a player if you look a certain way, the same way the media and society will push these things, these narratives of, and they're all negative narratives where, oh, he can't stay home if he's a homebody, or if he's sensitive, he's too feminine, he's too this. We throw those narratives and make them negative, and instead of allowing the person to be who they are, now you say, well, that's he not for me. Just like that balloon thing they got on, the guy just come out and they popping balloons. Haven't heard a word he said, but yet because he doesn't look the part, oh, he doesn't, he looked like a mama's boy, he looks soft. And what you do, and when you tell a man this, a man that's in wolf mode, what he's seeing is that you're saying you want somebody to shake you up. You want a little roughness. You want somebody to be doggish, because that's what your mama was used to, and that's what you're used to, and you think that's the right way for a person to be. And your misconceptions are misguided opportunities to learn who a person really is.
I wanted to add before you, now we're not saying this is an absolute across the board. Okay. So I just wanted to say that because there are no absolutes. So we're just asking questions so nobody take it personal. Okay.
Take it. That's but I'm being for real.
Hit dog will holler.
I don't mean no disrespect when I say that, but take it. Because okay, here's the reality of the reality of the situation. It is a question. You need to hear the different perspectives of the question. However you take it that way because that's where you are. I can't soften the blow of what facts have portrayed. So whatever he said, if somebody feels some particular type of way, we love you, but take it. Own it. Rationalize those emotions within yourself, and then come to grips with why you feel that way. Okay. And I'm going to be quiet so the consistency coach can give y'all some consistency.
And speaking of consistency, I think one misconception that women have about men is that they are emotionally unavailable. I think that is so false. So false. I think we are. I think what it is, it looks different in the way that it's expressed. When we're in our emotions, a lot of times what we're doing is we're processing and we're trying to figure out a solution, not sit there and yap. Just saying. So I think that's huge. It's like, and then sometimes it's because of something that may have happened in the past, right? So when I was emotional and or vulnerable with some information and I shared it with you, then it was used against me later on in an argument. So now I'm closed off. So now I don't want to be emotional anymore. Now I don't want to share certain things with you anymore. So I think a lot of times it's a big misconception that men are not emotionally available when they really are.
Can I have
And I'll keep it short and sweet.
alibi to?
Hold on, player. Hold
After
on.
you. Go ahead.
Hold on, man. He didn't tag me because he's in the same space I'm at. But I'm gonna go a different route, not necessarily emotionally unavailable, but my emotions got to look like yours. And if it doesn't look like yours, then I don't have emotions. Right? That is the biggest, that to me, that is one of the biggest misconceptions that exist, that men don't have emotions, especially when you're comparing what my emotions look like compared to yours. And if they don't match your energy from an emotional standpoint, then I don't have emotions. You are emotionless. You don't get excited about anything. Maybe the thing you want me to get excited about isn't exciting. Have you ever thought about that part? So, I mean, again, truth runs the risk of hurting, offense sometimes. But that's the thing that we need to ask the question to. Just because it excites you does not mandate that it excites me. So I think that's it. I think another thing, we, again, because you guys heard us talk about it before, men provide and protect, right? But that is all. All a man do is provide and protect. And if they ain't providing and protecting, that's not a real man. That gets under my skin whenever I hear a woman tell a man what a real man looks like. You have no idea what a real man looks like. The only example you got is your daddy, and you have fooled yourself to believe that your daddy was the benchmark of what real men look like. That's just a lie. A man is a man is a man is a man. Like we just talked about personality, right? This man shows up different than this man. Your problem was with the man that you've been dealing with, you didn't take the time to learn who that man was. And you did not erase the image you had in your head about what manhood is. And then when you got in said relationship, you needed that man to fit your bill of it. And when he didn't fit it, now he ain't a real man. Just my thoughts.
Coach, you went exactly where I was going with the emotional thing. And I think that sometimes women want you to feel about the thing as they feel about it. No, I'm the man. So if you're excited, if you are a certain way, I'm still a man. So I'm still looking around. I'm making sure everything's okay. I'm not jumping up and kicking up in the air like I want a Toyota or whatever, simply because something happened. I need to be allowed to be me. And when I voice something to you, it's not a personal attack. It's not something against you. It's not that, oh, well, you're attacking me. No, I'm not. I'm voicing my concerns and my opinions, and you get to talk too. And that's the difference there, where we get to talk when I bring it up, but what you want to do is shut me down when you start to talk. No, we have to have an ebb and flow to the conversation to where you hear me as well as I'm hearing you.
And I just want to add one more piece, because just as passionate as I'm just being honest, I am extremely passionate about the real whatever. That's from men or women. I hate when men tell women, what a real woman look like. They don't know. You have no idea. It's just your mama. And if we ask the right people, you might learn something about your mom you don't want to know. So I'm just saying, like, if we stop doing that, right? If we stop going across boundaries and trying to tell somebody else how to work their side of the street, then I think in the space of relationships, we can actually exist a whole lot better. But that's one of the biggest things. You really know what a real man is. You don't.
Well, dang, coach. All I can say is ding, da, da, ding, ding, ding. Okay. The question, what are some common misconceptions women have about men? All of you, of course, touched on it. Dr. Phil basically said my answer in the first place. We put them all in the same bucket. And we do. But to even ask the question, common misconceptions women have about men, we already know the misconceptions we have about men, period. So let's stop playing with how we ask these questions, because really what we're looking for is how to manipulate the situation within relationships for most women. So, I leave that there, and that's just the facts. I do appreciate the conversation, though.
You going in the hiding, coach?
No, it's getting ugly up in here. I got to get ready.
You gotta get okay. So I know why you I know why you put that on now. Okay, I want to brace the audience for this next question before we go into it. Okay. First of all, I want to say that I do appreciate the transparency that we're hearing from the men from their perspective because we need to know. And sometimes it may be difficult to hear, but at least consider what's being said so that we can be better together in relationships, friendships, whatever the case may be. So I think it's really good for to ask these questions to get an understanding so that we can be better together because that's what our father's in purpose is or intent is for his children. Okay, so now y'all, let me prepare y'all. Okay, so I just want y'all brace yourself and get ready for the next for the next question.
I should have worn my pearls. So question.
Okay, so we're gonna ask the men, of course, to answer this question. If Coach, you can start, or do you want to start?
Wait a minute. You want Ike to start? You
No,
you want
whoever. I don't even care. Whoever can start.
who want to go out there first, man?
Man, no, nobody want to go out there first. No, you know I ain't scared of nothing, and I can be open. I've been in this situation before, and what steps can be taken. Literally, this is where one has to be open and honest with themselves first, because there was a reason why you didn't just fall into it. It didn't just happen. There were some things that where you were lacking in self. So you can't put that on the other person. You can't say, well, oh, well, I did it because you didn't. No, see, now I have to look at self and say, what was I lacking that I needed this attention, that I needed this fulfillment outside of the sanctity of my marriage? And after I look at self, now I got to look at being open, being honest, being sincere and contrite, and the damage that I've done, because I will not understand what I did to the person, but what I can do is empathize and not just act like, well, I did it and just get over it or whatever. And that's what sometimes the bravado or the machismo in men, sometimes that's how we kind of maneuver. I think that you need to sit yourself down, and if you say you are the child of the Most High, now you have to gain that true walk of repentance with Him first and foremost, so that you can establish that ground moving forward. Because I wasn't treating the relationship right, and I thought that if I kept it to myself, now then it's like, okay, if she don't find out, okay, it's not about her, it's about the relationship. And now you severed not just that relationship, but this relationship. So now going forward, you need to get yourself right and not do the work on your own, but do the work with him, a counselor, or whomever it is that will see you two being the goal of getting better.
Yeah, see, this is very unpopular answer, by the way. Just setting the conditions already. There's a song you guys probably remember years ago when we were younger. It was the most popular song by DJ Rob. What is it? Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. Y'all remember the song that they were most famous for? It Takes Two. Absolutely. But when it comes down to this one, this is the only one that exists out there where you say it was you. No boo-boo. Sorry. It takes two to start that relationship. It takes two to run afoul of that relationship as well. So I agree with everything that the poor man Dr. Phil just said. The person who actually did it, they got to self-reflect. They need to find some things deep within them. What made you do this? But then the other person, they need to do some self-reflection as well. Why did you set how did it get to the point to where we set the condition to where that person felt the need? There's that word again, right? Felt the need to go out there and do it, because it wasn't a need, it was a want, right? Why did they want to go out there and participate in these, freelance activities with somebody else, right? It's the environment. The relationship environment has to be considered. So going back, being honest with yourself first, because if you're not honest with yourself, you ain't gonna ever be honest with nobody else. I really do believe that part. That has to happen, the reflection part, being honest with yourself about the why. That must happen first before y'all can come to the table and be honest with one another about the why. And then both parties own their version of the transgression, right? Because everybody took place in it. I understand, like I said, it's not popular, but that's okay. Just consider it. Consider it, have that conversation, be upfront about it. Now, here's the reality of the truth. And I love the fact that over there, I love the fact that he said it, because here's the reality of it. I didn't do it against you, I did it against him. But you're taking it as I did it against you. But the reason why you're taking it as I did it against you is because you find value in your connection with me. So the value that you found in the connection with me and the super inflated value that you found in your connection with me had you to believe at some particular point in time that I would never do that. So now, because when it goes outside of that, you're offended. But the reality of the truth is that you should be offended for me, because I really violated my relationship, my first and most important relationship with the Most High. So you should be not so much as feeling, oh, this and oh, that and oh, this. You should be like, hey, we need to sit down and figure this out. Because if we are going to stay in connection, and that's the first decision point that we need to have before all of this happened, if we're going to stay in connection, we need to come together and figure out how did we get to the point of you doing this thing. Because if we're in this partnership, this relationship, I think Nadella mentioned previously that we are one. Oh, well, if we won, that means my offense is your offense. Your offense is my offense. Ain't that what Kevin Hart said? Your BS is my BS, and my BS is your BS. That's true. That's real. It's not just one when it's convenient. It's one all the way across the board. Don't disassociate yourself now. Let's not change the dynamics of it. So when we do that, we need to recognize what this relationship is. We need to come to grips on who we really offended, not how I feel about the offense that you did, because that might be revealing to me that I think more highly of myself in the space of this relationship more than anything. So that's the other side of it. And then now we set the condition. After we have this conversation, we come up with a plan, a joint plan on how we're going to move forward together in harmony.
Yo, brothers, that's ain't leave too much meat on the bone. But I wrote some things down, and based off the question, I am going to assume that these people have already made the decision to stay together, to remain together, because they're looking to restore. You're not looking to restore something that you don't want. So I'm answering this question as though these two people in this relationship have decided to stay together, right? So the first thing is, when it comes to my steps, is the accountability piece, right? That is the first thing. Whoever did whatever they did, yada, 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 they have to accept responsibility for whatever role they played in that scenario. And then after that, you have to have communication. All right. And then also, let me back up real quick, because I skipped over something on my notes, because I write like chicken scratch sometimes. And then I got the light off. So, and I don't have my glasses on. So hold up and put my glasses on so I can read my notes. There we go. All right. So again, like I said, the first thing is, if they're deciding, I'm answering this as though they are going to be together. The next thing is, they got to let it go. So once you have decided that we are staying together and you have forgiven that person, you have to let that go. And I know that is a lot harder than it sounds. It's a lot harder, and it's not easy to do. So because you're still going to have thoughts, but it's different in having a thought and then being put back in that space at the same time. So moving along, again, you got to have the accountability. After that, the communication has to be flawless. Like, everything needs to be communicated. I'm not saying every single specifics or the details or anything like that, because remember, you've already forgiven this person, you've already moved past. But going forward, when there's information and there are things going on in a relationship, they have to have the communication needs to be better, because in order for it to get to that, there usually was a lack of communication or ineffective communication up until that point. So communication needs to get better. Then there needs to be boundaries and expectations in place. What are the boundaries? Do we need to go back to the drawing board? What do we define in our relationship as to be the boundaries and expectations that we agreed upon when we set our vows, when we got together, whenever? And then after that, you probably need some sort of therapy. You know what I mean? You probably need to talk to somebody else who may be trained in helping people talk through or navigate this process, because this is something in most cases, especially if this is the first time, neither one of you have never done it before. So you may not know what it's like. You may not know from the other person's perspective what it was like going through it and being, having everything done to you because it wasn't done to you. And then both sides, good or bad, have a perspective, and neither one of them have ever dealt with that before. So if they're going to be together, they may need to talk to somebody to talk it out. Maybe even a love doctor. I don't know. And then after that, they need to be focusing or on their personal growth. Both people need to be focused on personal growth. You have to spend time working on yourself. Something broke down in yourself in order for you to go out and decide to commit adultery. So you have to continue to work on yourself. So again, if I'm gonna go down my little list over here, got some steps, it's accountability, communication, boundaries and expectations, some therapy, and some focus on some personal growth. That's it.
That's good. That was good. Any ladies, you have any response to this, to what you're hearing? Does anything stand out to you? I'm sorry, did Roland, did you respond yet? Okay, I'm sorry. Roland, please. No, don't respond, please. Oh, you did first, right? You respond first. Okay. Any question, like any comments or response? And I know we have a question in the chat as well. I don't know if Coach wants to deal with that, but yes.
The only response I have is I'm glad that we don't live in the time when Leviticus was written, because the adulterer and the adulteress would be dead. Okay. So that's what I would have to say. But I do agree that communication and forgiveness will be necessary. And I do find that we often look outside of ourselves and don't think that we have anything to do with someone else committing adultery against us, when it is a two-way street.
Okay, I'm going to take the immature approach and wear this badge proudly. And I think, I'm sorry, I got to do it. Not that I disagree with any of the men said, right? But there's a period of time that got skipped over. And that's the period of time from finding out and the point of reconciling with it, if you are the party that did not commit the offense. So my question is, between the time of you finding out, right, or the other person finding out, and to the time you can actually have a conversation, it might not be in a matter of an hour. It might be in a matter of about 120 days. I'm trying to understand, what do you do with that time? Because I get it when you have reconciled within yourself that I have played a part and it's time to have a conversation so that we can put this relationship back together. But I am still immature enough, I own it, to tell you that my emotions ain't coming out first. And between finding out and actually having that conversation of reconciliation is not overnight. It ain't a couple hours, it ain't 30 minutes. I'm not going to have a rational conversation with myself immediately. That's not happening. At least for me. I can't talk about nobody else. So how do you deal with that time? I've seen it done. I have never experienced it, but I've seen it done. I've seen the temperature go down to negative 359 in the house. I've seen the temperature go up to 10 degrees above Hades. I'm just saying, what do you do with that time frame? Because this sounds really great once you have collected yourself and came to your senses and you want to have that conversation to work it out. That would be my question.
Okay, reframe the question.
What do you do with the time frame that a person is in their emotions between finding out that they have been that offensive has taken place to the point where you actually have come to the conclusion that you want to have a conversation about moving forward?
So, based upon the question, now I hear that there was no time frame left out. Because if you remember what we said, there has to be a self reflection piece that takes place within yourself. That's my work, right? That's the thing that gets me to the point of having said conversation. If I don't do the work that has to take place on me, then having that conversation is going to be all about them. But once I get to the point where I self reflect, do the work on me, and be honest with myself about myself, not honest with myself about what they did, because that's what most people tend to do. They just keep reprocessing the fact of what took place without any ownership of how they fit into this grand scheme of things. So when I sit there and I do the self-reflective work on me, owning everything that I either did or could have done, because there's a lot of conversation that can take place in the space of, and I just say it this way because we're so accustomed to hearing coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? It's a lot of conversation that can take place in there. A lot of conversation with me about me. I don't have conversation with me at this point about them. I have conversation with me about me. I should not have conversation with myself about them until I invite them to the table. Once I do that, that's the time frame that you're talking about. Then I come to the conversation to have conversation, not to play the blame game, not to pin them against the cross and set it on fire, not any of those things. I come to the conversation to have conversation with them. And if I really want to have conversation that will yield fruit, I go to the conversation apologizing for what I did or did not do that may have contributed to them. That's the easiest way to get somebody else to own their version of it. But when I go to the conversation with my baseball bat and in one hand and my pistol in the other, they ain't gonna own nothing. They're in defense mode at this point. And that's the way that most people go into it. So that's kind of like how I answer that question. Sure, it can take a long time if I decide it's going to take a long time. But then what I just did is I resolved within myself that I can't have a conversation with that person until I get my emotions under control. But here's the reality of the truth. That was supposed to be the work I did on this side. I was supposed to be getting my emotions under control long before the transgression hit the table. And if I don't do the work that I need to do on this side of the timeline, when adversity hits, it's going to show me a lot about me. So maybe their transgression was a good thing that actually happened because it actually showed me something that I needed to learn about myself that I was neglecting all the way back here.
I have a question to that though, Coach. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Did you have something else, Adrienne? I just have a really quick question.
I
So
was
in
just
essence,
gonna tell Coach, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to tell Coach that, like, I agree. I think that there's a lot of personal work that you do before a relationship, definitely before a relationship, right? And in the midst of the relationship, there's always personal growth to be done, and that should be an ongoing thing. However, when you're working, this is my perspective, when you're working on personal growth, right? And you've identified some of your own mess and you're working on, right? And then to quote you, everybody got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That can be a gut punch. That could be a gut punch. So the things that a person could personally be working on, consistency, discipline, all the things y'all got in my life about this week. But all those things that you're working on your own personal growth, right? When something like that happens and it's that punch, as you would say, I'm coach again, coach, sometimes those things aren't gone away. They're just dormant. It's like opening the floodgate sometimes. And I'm not trying to say that you can go like berserk, right? I'm not talking about just absolutely crashing out, but there is some emotions that will yield itself to the surface. And so with that, I'm sure you're going to say the same thing, but with that, as an offender, right? So I'll put that hat on. As an offender, do you give that person the time to reconcile with that before you actually come to or do you want to just talk about it? Because that's all I ever see is people just want to say, yeah, I did it and we just got to get past it. And I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how to preserve your life at this point. So let's not talk right now.
Okay. I got your comment, Adrian, right? But I wanted to see what Miss Levon has to say. Comment she was going to make as well.
I have talked to several people. You know what I'm saying? I have brothers, uncles, and most of them state that they could never imagine their wife or significant other sleeping with another man. So this question, how to restore the relationship, a lot of them are like, there is no restoration because I can never trust her. Even though they may even look at themselves and say, I did nothing. You know what I mean? So although all of it sounds great, the forgiveness, the communication, and those things, and of course you can only speak for yourselves. What about those people or those men that they like, no, because I'm going to always remember that someone else touched my wife.
Get a dog.
I have one, but
I can't say it. I can't say it any plainer way. Get a dog. If you don't have forgiveness in your heart, don't get in a relationship. It should not matter the offense. It should matter the relationship in the person. And let's go back. Who is the primary relationship that I have? What is the primary relationship that I have? And if that be true, then how do I represent that relationship? By doing the thing that he actually forgive us for every day? So no. If that person, if a person goes into a relationship and they have like, this is a showstopper, don't get in a relationship. Get a dog.
Now, and I wanted to add before we answer this question. Now, Levon, was that the only comment that did you have a rebuttal to what Coach was saying?
No, I mean, we see it all the time and every day in relationships. And I don't disagree about getting a dog. But what do we tell people, and what do we tell individuals that's going through this right now outside of what you've already said? Because there's blockages that some can't seem to overcome.
How much of it is their choice? That's the thing that we have to understand. The intentional recycle of information in your head is a choice. And I'm not trying to get ahead of get ahead and answer the question, but again, going back to what and I'm trying to incorporate what Adrian was saying as well. Going back to this on this side, this is the work that I'm supposed to do before transgression hits. It is necessary for me to do this because if I don't do this, when this happens, the whole world comes crashing down. So I'm doing this because it is guaranteed that adversity is going to come. It is written, right? So I must do the necessary work on me. And then when this happened, it only reveals in me the work that still remains to be done. Because again, perfection is a bridge too far. So we're working on progression. So when this happens, like Adrian says, sure, it reveals in me the work that I still need to do, but it does not reveal in me the work that I am doing to hold somebody else on trial for their offense when I am just as guilty, even though their guilt looked different than mine in that particular moment. He who was without sin cast the first stone. So I think that's the thing that we have to do. We have to own our version, get to the point, do the work on you to get here. Adversity hits, recognize where I sit in here, do more work on me. And then when we start asking that question about time, how much time do I own? The answer is 0. Therefore, now when I hold you in contempt of court and I tell you to go to your room till your daddy come home, right? Because that's what we tend to do. We'll hold that person. Well, I'm not ready to talk yet. I'm not ready to talk yet. I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk. What we're doing is punishing them. That's all we're doing. So when it comes down to time, we got to recognize who owns time. I don't own time. What you don't want to happen is that you put that person in time out, which is what you're doing. And then next thing you know, that time has been taken away from you. Now, what are you going to say? Now, what is your response? When you could have chosen the high road and reconcile and get over how you feel about it based upon the work that you're doing, not getting over, not saying that getting over it is easy. None of this is easy. Relationship is not easy. But the issue is that we got into a relationship expecting easy to be the answer because I believe that you would never do this to offend me. No, they should never do this to offend the Father. That's the answer. So again, this transgression is really revealing to me how I view relationship. And if I don't own it, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to hold that person in contempt, taking what the Father says is his as mine's time. And then now when I get ready, we'll have this conversation because that's really what it is. But I've done too much talking. Let these brothers.
Okay.
Let these
No,
brothers
go ahead.
chime.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I like what Coach said, and like Adrian's question. I think one thing that would be helpful too is be able to articulate that initially. Hey, look, that time in between, blah blah blah. Hey, look, I'm freaking really hurt right now. I wasn't expecting this. I just got a freaking gut punch from you. I don't know when. Is there? I need a minute. You know what I mean? I think that you have to be transparent and you have to let that person know. But like Coach said too, I don't think you can hold nobody's time hostage either. You know what I mean? We can't wait 6 months for us to have a conversation about what we're going to do in the future. You know what I'm saying? I think that between the two of y'all should hopefully be able to come to an agreed upon time. It might be a day or two. It might be a week. I don't know. I understand that different people takes time for them. I'm just being pretty secular with this response. Sometimes people, they just need time, and I get that. But to Coach's point, you can't hold nobody hostage forever with their time either. And I think to the other question, I think some of it is, when it comes to men, some men are just going to be like, nope, no matter what they're going through, they're just going to say, no, I'm not reconciling, no matter what. And when it comes to that, women just have to deal with it. It is what it is. And no, it's not always, pleasant to hear, but you can't make somebody want to be with you. If that man has pretty much decided that this was the breaking point in his relationship, or this was something that it was a deal breaker, then, what can you really do?
And that should have been something learned in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. In the beginning, the man, the woman, both parties should be in whatever relationship you're in. You should always be working on yourself to where things don't just move you once they get you to an emotional stance. You shouldn't fly off the handle. I don't care what's going on. You should always be in a sense of control over that, because when a man or a woman or whomever, mostly men, I see them too, and they say, well, if my lady cheat, I'm gone. That's ego. That's simply ego saying that I can't take something that's supposedly mine being taken away because it's mine, mine, mine. It's like a little kid, gimme, gimme, gimme. And I wrote down so I wouldn't forget, both parties have to make a decision at that point, right? When we find out this, whether or not we gonna be together, whether or not we gonna make this work, whether or not we gonna even try to make it work. Because if you don't do that, I don't care how much time you put on the table. You can put me in the corner, as Coach said, go to your room, and I'm be like, okay, this person over here ain't telling me to go to my room. So now what you're doing is you're working against the relationship. So instead of doing that, say, hey, you take 5, I'm gonna take 5. We're gonna come back and see if we actually want to make this thing work. Because if we actually want to make it work, now we put into place the plan to make it work, not the plan where, oh, I won't do it again because I won't do it again, mean I'll do it so you won't find out again. So now, unexpected flashbacks, people having memories of things looking like, sometimes it's you haven't done the work. So now everything that looks like anything seems to be, oh, why he talking to the neighbor too long? What it, like it's the neighbor. I said hi. Why are you speaking to her? So now you want me to be the prison in the prison of the moment of your mind, not what I did, but your mind, because your mind is telling me it may happen again. And instead of doing the maybe, coulda, shoulda, wouldas, we can do the work together. We can go get counseling. We can do all these things to where we're working on the relationship, because you took it personal as if it was a personal offense to you when it was a personal offense to him. And I got to get right with him. If I'm never right with him, I'll never be right with you. I can camouflage it and maneuver better, but it'll always be the same.
And remember,
Are
remember the threshing floor is real. So when you become one, the threshing floor is for both of y'all, not just that one person.
to
Now,
Roland, they be getting mad. Like, why you give her? Why you tell her happy birthday and give her 3 cakes, 3 cake emojis? I'm like, yeah, happy birthday, you man. But like, to me, to answer this question, I think, when those thoughts and flashbacks come, you just to give a biblical response, you got to rebuke them thoughts. Like, they're going to come. That's part of it. You know what I mean? You shouldn't go back to that place when you do that. But that's the reality of it. When you have trauma and you've been hurting and different things like that, they're going to come up. So expect them. And when they do come up and they come up in your life and stuff like that, them flashbacks, then you know what? A biblical response would be to rebuke the thoughts.
And a quick rebuke is not going where they are, because when they're in that emotional state, they hate it when you like, okay, you're right. They hate that. They think you being narcissistic and all this other stuff. No, I'm just not taking it to that level, because if I take it to that level, that means I'm losing control of me, and I'm allowing your anger and your emotions to control me. So now we both arguing and nobody's winning. The relationship isn't winning. And from the outside looking in and inside looking out, we aren't glorifying him.
okay, I wanted to say, now we're supposed to end in about 6 minutes. Yet, if you mind giving us a few more minutes, okay? Because we want to end with this question. And I know we're going to have to do a part 2. I already knew it, because we haven't even got through half the questions. We only got through 4. So I know someone asked in the chat, we would do another part. We will, if the brothers, if the Hearts of Men say they will come back and do the discussion with us, we'll be glad, for that second part of this discussion. But I did want to answer this question as well. Both questions, actually. And I was just sitting back, taking everything in, and I'm getting ready to be very transparent right now. Okay. So, I was married for 20 something plus years, and I had this cycle happen a few times, 3-4 times in that time of my relationship, in my marriage. And so every time that it happened, now I met when we were young, we were both young. So a lot of things we didn't know, we were learning, and I still didn't know until I would say 4 or 5 years ago. I didn't know, what it meant to be reconciled back to the Father, after we committed adultery against him. So this is where you have to do the work to answer Adrian's question. Once you decide and also to follow up what Uncle Junior was saying, you have to, once you decide that you're going to stay in that relationship, once you make a decision, that means that you've forgiven, and now it's time for you to do your work. Okay? So then that means that you have to go and consider your ways. If you say you're going to stay, how are you going to do that? Well, for me, I can tell you what I had to do. Every time a thought came up, as Uncle Junior said, rebuke it or change it, I had to do the work inside of me, because I decided to stay. So I can't keep saying, well, you did this. I can't hold you hostage, because I made a decision to stay. And I did this because the church told me that I was supposed to, and because I grew up and my family told me I was supposed to stay in that relationship. And so now I had to figure out, how do I do this? You know, how do I go through this over and over and over and over again? And it wasn't easy, but it was something that a lot of women, I'm not the only one who's ever had to go through this, and a lot of men as well has had to go through this. But when you make a decision, you say, I'm going to stay, then that means you're saying, I'm getting ready to do the work. And it doesn't matter how it feels. And I'm committed to the relationship that I have with the Father, because everything that we have, it's not ours. And that's why each of us have to be mindful. The husband or wife that you have, it's not yours, it's a gift to you. The job that you have, it's for you to manage, for you to be a good steward over. And your accountability is to the Father for everything. The waking up each morning, the breath that is breathed into you is something that He gave you. It's not yours. The job that you have, when you go to work each and every day, it was a gift that He gave to you so you can provide for yourself, so you can buy the house and the car that you have. So I think that we had to be mindful that these are blessings or gifts that God has given us. Now, how do we manage them? How do we become good stewards over it? And this is part of relationship as well, over what He has blessed us with and He's given us. And I just wanted to say, I wanted to just add that, you know, as I was listening to everyone's thoughts, because I'm not being disingenuous when I say I had to do this. I had to go through the cycle of forgiveness. And when someone said, how can you love someone or forgive someone and be in relationship with them after they've gone outside your marriage? I'm a living testimony that you can do it, but you have to put God first. And then that person has to be willing to say, okay, we're going to work on this and we're going to do this together. So it is possible. And some people will say, you know, you a fool. I wouldn't have did that. I've heard that. But you know, I'm divorced now, so we're gonna state that. And it was because we needed to be, because it was something that he never had the example to know how to do or be what he needed to be, and I didn't have that either. So we were both coming, the blind leading the blind in this aspect. And so we're both learning and growing together. I don't hold anything against him. I pray for him. I want the very best for him, and he's gone on with his life. We have children. I thank God for the children, but I can't stay there because now our lives are no longer joined together. We're no longer one. He's going his way. I'm going my way. So why am I spending the time to continue to be unforgiving? Because we're supposed to forgive immediately anyway for our own sake. And so I'm gonna leave right there, and I'm gonna let everybody have their final comments. If I could assign the comments, I would really like for the men to give their final comments last, and that's gonna be my final comment. And if Adrian can give hers, then Levon, if we can let the mindset coach, I'm sorry, just do his last, I would appreciate it. And then Roland, and then Uncle Junior. If you understood that, did that make sense? Okay. Okay. So we will have a part 2. Okay.
Wait a minute. I want to make sure I got this straight. So first Adrian, then Levon, then Roland, then Garfield, then me.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So I want to let you know that we will do this again. And if you have more questions, I saw there are a few more questions in the chat. I can pull them over and bring them in and put them on the list of questions, because we only got through 4, and there was 13 questions. So we only got through 4. So and then there's other questions that were in the chat. So I thank everyone who was here, who listened in. If you have questions, or you want to comment, or you want to submit a question, please do so. And I'm going to let Coach talk about the community as well in his closing, to tell us where you can find the community and where we have even more of these discussions on a weekly, daily basis, you know, or you can come to our community and ask questions on the board as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let Adrian go ahead.
This was so good today. And I truly appreciate the brothers from the Hearts of Men joining us today, answering some questions, understanding that we're all working to be better. And I am so appreciative for these kind of conversations. I'm looking forward to part 2. It's good to have men in your corner who are of integrity and love God and understand the things that thus saith the Lord. So I appreciate you all. I'm looking forward to seeing you all in my community, and I love you with the love of Christ.
Well, today was great. I do appreciate, like Adrian stated, the comments from the hearts of men, the honesty and the integrity that they do carry, because it's not found in many, I would say. So my closing remarks, some of the things that I garnered from this or gleaned from this conversation, I would say that we need to communicate in relationships and have understanding, patience, and mutual respect for one another. Also, I think that we need to be mindful to nurture our relationships with honesty, empathy, and growth. And remember, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to take out a page out of the Voices book. She always go with scripture, and I'll start with James 1, and she placed it on the podcast last night. And it starts out, we always skip over verse 1. 1 and 1 says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Then he starts out, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptation. Not if, it says when you fall. So trials will come. Knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given to him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. First, decide which side you're on, and that will determine whether or not you have the stick-to-itness to stay in relationship, because it's not necessarily simply about the relationship with you and her or you and him. It's about your relationship with him. When you have a relationship with people, I don't care who it is, there will be times where you will be tried to make sure that you're in it for the right reason. And if you're not, it'll show. If you are, you go to him and you ask him, and you have that faith to make sure it works out to the good of him, to the glory of him. That way, you always look at the relationship as a product of him. So when we're working on this thing, when we're trying to make it work, seeing if we want it to work, it starts with him, it ends with him, and he fills in the gaps in the middle through the faith that he has given you to work it out. Thank you.
I want to first start by thanking the women. Why I thank the women? Because they have enough trust and confidence in us men up here today to feel like we are somebody that they can ask these questions to. You know, it's not always, you don't always get everybody. Everybody doesn't always have good information, and everybody's not coming from a place of integrity. I think someone just mentioned integrity a few minutes ago. So first of all, I want to thank you ladies for trusting us with our words and our wisdom and whatever information that we came on here and we delivered today and going to in the future. So that says a lot. I am honestly humbled by that. So I appreciate you. And I want that to be known and recognized here. Also, all of this stuff, relationships are not always easy. Relationships take work. They're just like anything else. If you want success, you need to have a blueprint or some instructions, and then people need to make sure that they are abiding by those instructions. And I think that when we have places like this where we can get the other side of the coin from that person's perspective, I think it can lead to nothing but greatness and positivity. So thank you, women, for having the confidence and allowing us to speak up here. And again, work their relationships because they require work.
I gotta echo that. Like I agree wholeheartedly. I love the fact that they desired to have a conversation of this magnitude. Like if you think about it, like it's generally something. The conversation like this is generally something that's had in a silo, but they desired to want to have a conversation where both man and woman is on the platform talking about some very important things. So I want to kind of echo what the consistency coach said there. Um, I believe wholeheartedly from a community that has um, deep seated trauma. I will start there. From a community that has deep seated trauma that we've experienced in our life, trauma that has been passed on to us from our ancestors through epigenetics. Um, I think that sets the condition for failed relationships. There's a lot of information that comes through the airways telling you about this, telling you about that. It's not by happenstance that everything that you've listened to for the majority of your life wants you to focus on your emotion and make that the number one thing behind relationships. Because any relationship that is based upon how you feel is unstable at best. So now, when how I feel becomes the foundation of the relationship, I am literally taking you by the hand and walking you out to the ocean and say, we're going to walk on water and we're going to make it. Just trust me. Well, we know how far that's going to go. And that's really what happens. Every relationship must be everything. I don't care what it is. It must be rooted in principle. If it's not rooted in principle, there is no value behind what we're pursuing. So I will start back in the beginning based upon the traumas that we've experienced in our culture, in our generation, the generations before us that has passed those traumas down. We need to do some self work prior to getting into relationships. I believe a lot of relationships that exist, they exist because of the practiced coping mechanisms that both parties have exercised in the relationship. That's problematic at best because now you are definitely going back to what poor man's Dr. Phil said, you were misrepresenting the Most High. How can you say that this is an extension of Him, right? How can you say that this is an extension of Christ's relationship with the church, His relationship with His Son, when in all actuality, we're existing by coping mechanism? That makes absolutely no sense. And then what you'll have, if you have people say, well, everybody's different. Sure, we can bring that card to the table, but here's the deal. We are more alike than we are different, but we want to focus on the little bit of differences that exist between us. If you think about some of these pre-positioned responses that we have been given and they have been pre-programmed in us, you will realize that they have been done so that you can combat what the truth, right? The truth is actually saying. And so what we'll do is we'll sidestep the truth. We don't really want to talk about what is true. We want to talk about facts as I see it, assumptions or presuppositions, either or, and opinions. And there lies the problem. We have a situationship that is based upon opinions, assumptions, presuppositions, and facts as you see it. That's not principle. That's unhealthy existence. And unfortunately, it's only a matter of time before it comes to an end. So that is my final thoughts. And I want to thank again the ladies for allowing us to be a part of this conversation. By request, again, Crystal Everett, thank you so much, have been doing a lot in the chat to kind of point everybody in the right direction. www.totalmindsetshift.com /groups, right? That gets everybody to our private chat where we put information in there. And I think I'm going to focus on relationships this week going forward. But I've also been chastised by that person right there. I've been chastised because I don't always tell the entirety of the information. I don't always tell people like what my credentials are when they have these conversations. Most people don't know that I am a licensed marriage coach. Like literally, I have a certification behind that. Most people don't know that. I don't share it. I don't like talking about myself. I'm just being transparent. I don't like telling people I have a master's degree in human services counseling, which comes from the School of Behavioral Science. I don't like sharing it. But that one right there and a couple other people say you need to share it because they need to understand that you're not just some talking head. Okay, fair enough. So I'm just sharing that now on this particular platform right now, being obedient, right? But still, it just makes me feel funky to do so. So I just sharing that. So again, join us. Come join the group. Come hang out with us. Come participate in TikTok tomorrow morning, 11:30 a.m. Where all of us, starting from well, Garfield, you don't come. You can come hang out, but you don't normally hang out on Sundays, right? But swinging around, like from me to poor man's Dr. Phil, all the way around. Like you'll find us there and some other people in the chats as well. Like we have more specific biblically based conversation Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Me and this young man over here, Coach's Corner, right? We generally talk all things leadership, and that leadership not just based upon what you do in the work sector, but also what you do in the family house. Because believe it or not, in the house, that's where your first hint of leadership takes place. And again, on Friday nights at 8 p.m., Hearts of Men, you have these handsome gentlemen to include one other who is doing his civil duty right now as it pertains to serving this country. So again, it is a lot of information. Just so that you guys know, I've been in a lab literally all week working on a 8-module self-development course that literally forces you from one avenue of progression, starting from awareness all the way to community. It's 8 modules. Each module would take you an entire month, and in that module, you have webinars, you have training, you'll also have coaching sessions, and you'll have some self-work and assessments. All of that happens within a month. I told Michelle Ray about it. She said, I don't want to go back to school. But that's what life is. Life is school, whether you realize it or not. Every aspect of your existence is predicated on you learning something more about yourself and where you are. So that's really what it's all about. So it is imperative that we grow. We just heard us talk about relationship has to be a thing to where you are growing in the relationship, not just one person growing and the other person not growing, because you're going to end up growing apart, right? Both people must grow independently and collectively. Come together and teach each other what you've learned about yourself. Maybe they knew it, maybe they didn't know it. That's okay. Do it anyway, right? So I'm gonna turn it back over to you, Voice of Reason. Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the time to share all of that stuff, and blessings to everybody.
Thank you guys again so much for being here with us. And we are going to leave. We don't want to hold you. We know it's your Saturday and you got things to do. But thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you on part 2. And we'll put that information out and you will be seeing it on our social media platforms. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Renewed Consideration. You can find me on TikTok at The Voice of Reason. And then you can find me on Facebook at Lisa M. Keys or Lisa Keys and Keys to Key Realty. So I have a lot of Instagram, Keys to Key Realty. So you can find me in all these places. But we will be sharing some more information on our Facebook platforms and our TikTok platforms. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys being with us.